Hello again, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather. On this 24th day of November 2019, I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here on the hazardous weather graphic, you can see winter storm watch out here for the western Arctic coast. That kicking into effect around later tonight, or actually tomorrow and tomorrow night. Winter storm warnings are out here for the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, Yukon Delta, and that kicks into effect midday tomorrow, or actually tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night. And then the winter storm watch areas here for the central interior, Tanana Valley, and up to the Koyukuk Valley there, Bettles, and then southern slopes here, upper Yukon Valley and toward the Brooks Range, actually north of the Yukon Flats there. That's for Tuesday afternoon and into Wednesday for those watch areas. And then the winter storm, or the blizzard warning that was out along the eastern Arctic coast has ended now, although winds are still gusting upwards of 40 miles an hour with visibilities running anywhere from half mile to or up this afternoon. So conditions slowly improving there. We'll continue to do so this evening. Yellow area here, that signifies a winter weather advisory for the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, and that's out for the entire night tonight until 6 a.m. Monday morning for another 1 to 3 inches of snow possible in those areas. 3 inches probably the highest amount. I mean, we won't see any more than that, but that's out for the overnight period. And then here for the Kuskokwim Delta and Bristol Bay, coastal flood watch is out there for tomorrow night, is that big storm, kind of a broad southwest fetch of gusty, strong winds. And you could see seas anywhere, or tides anywhere, or wave heights anywhere from 4 to 8 to 10 feet maybe, and possible minor beach erosion with that. And for the satellite imagery, you can see a lot of cold air coming into the Gulf of Alaska, coming down out of the north and northwest, taking a turn to the east here. Pretty unstable. They had some ice pellets or hail along portions of the panhandle along the coast. I think it was around Sitka earlier, and could have actually been maybe even an embedded thunderstorm in that. It's that unstable, but showers all across the panhandle today, mostly in the form of rain. Snowfall levels coming down, but not that low yet, not down to sea level yet, as they are up at Yakutat, where they had snow this afternoon with probably some accumulation. Over toward Cordova also had snow, Valdez snow, and of course area snow developed over Cook Inlet here and brought a couple inches in across Anchorage earlier or during the day today. Otherwise, clouds up here, areas of light snow, kind of a widespread area of light snow there from the Alaska Range northward to Eagle, where they picked up a couple inches of snow today. 2 inches in Gulkana also fell, and about the same as I mentioned in the Anchorage area. For the back to the west here, still some clouds, but also things are much lighter as far as snowfall goes, just really minor amounts, areas of light snow, all diminishing this afternoon. Winds still gusting to 40 miles an hour to the northwest along the southwest coast here, Cape Neuenham, and just a few lingering snow showers over the Purbloffs. We got high pressure pushing eastward here and northward into the Bering Sea with a push of, or the next storm coming into the western Aleutians, Bering Sea here. 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts Shimia today with moderate amounts of rain, but some sun breaking out over Adak and Atka with light winds. Snow showers early on, they probably ended already here for the Unalaska area. And snow showers mainly on the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula here. Gusty winds across the peninsula. Kodiak Island seeing anywhere from 30 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts out of the west-northwest today, especially on the east side coming out of the bays. Rolling this through again, you can see the went backwards. Okay, let's go through this again. I must have hit the home button by accident, so I have to roll through all 4 loops again. Anyway, you can see due easterly, the push of that moisture farther out to the west, and also the cold upper low here coming across south central Alaska today. That's going to push off to the east and then take a turn down to the southeast tomorrow across the panhandle, and then behind that you'll get into a drier northeast flow, definitely colder temperatures following that in behind. Today though, you had the showers mixed with rain or snow, mostly former rain at sea level today until you got up to Yakutat or so, and as I mentioned, they picked up snow back in along kind of a narrow band here across Prince William Sound. Really not so much in Turnagain Arm, but Anchorage, that area we had kind of formed Cook Inlet and moved up to the northeast. Some more snow showers back here across Iliamna Lake, western Alaska Range. Isolated snow showers back even farther to the west, too dry with some clearing along the coast. And snow and blowing snow, eastern Arctic coast. A few showers to the Pribilofs. And high pressure here building into the eastern Bering Sea. That's going to be coming eastward as this storm out here to the west, you'll see tonight, keeps it wet and windy over the western Aleutians, and it should see an increase in the winds, but the precipitation may not reach AKwx until early tomorrow with a good push of warm air here, but narrow area of snow kind of catching up to this trough that brought the snow showers to the Pribilofs today. That moves into toward the southwest coast tonight. And clearing here, Kodiak Island clearing out, winds diminishing. Still some moisture in the form of light snow or flurries here along the west side of the Alaska Range, Kuskokwim Valley on up into possibly the Kobuk Valley there. And then along this trough, very weak here through the central Tanana Valley. And then the main snow area here will be over the upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, where the advisory is out until 6 a.m. And then just diminishing shower activity, diminishing clouds here for the Kenai Peninsula, Copper River Basin, North Gulf Coast, stays unsettled for the Panhandle. For tomorrow, that upper low sliding southeastward. This is a reflection at the surface there, weak low near or off the central coast. So rain showers south, a mixture in the mid areas, and then snow showers all the way down to sea level. Probably Haines, maybe Juneau, and Yakutat, but tapering off. And then areas of flurries here over the eastern interior with decreasing clouds. A clear day, light winds, south central Alaska, Prince William Sound, Kodiak Island, see an increase in the high cloud zone in the afternoon coming in. And then this system driving northeastward. Rain or precipitation amounts really not that heavy here for northern Bristol Bay or into the southern Kuskokwim Valley. The heavier amounts will be back here along the coast, Yukon Delta or Kuskokwim Delta, on up into St. Lawrence Island. Big increase in the winds with that, snow and blowing snow moving into those areas during the afternoon. Otherwise, the Arctic coast looking pretty good. Outlook for Tuesday. Front pushes inland and a lot of moisture comes with it. In advance of it, you can see very tight gradient here. Look for winds 30 to 55 miles an hour out of the south, all the way up to the Brooks Range. Snow and blowing snow through these areas, and then tapering off behind the front with maybe some clearing, lighter winds, more snow showery. See an increase in the winds on the Arctic coast, maybe some blowing snow developing or drifting snow for the central coast, and then kind of a weakening front here. Weak wave there, so wind's not much of a factor anymore, and just a light band of precipitation with that dragging in toward the central Aleutians. Otherwise, increasing clouds for Kodiak Island, or continued kind of varying mid and high level clouds. Stays dry over the eastern interior, eastern and central north slope as well. And the Panhandle mostly sunny except for the southern areas, lingering clouds, and definitely chillier. For lows tonight, still in the lower to mid 30s for the Panhandle, near freezing in the areas to the north, low below zero Copper River Basin, single numbers Tanana Valley, and 5 to 15 below up here from the upper Tanana Valley to the eastern Arctic coast, and upper 20s, lower 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Highs tomorrow coming into the lower 40s with that incoming system, lower 40s for the Pribilofs, above freezing St. Lawrence Island, single numbers and teens over the eastern interior, lower 20s for south central Alaska, and mid to upper 30s for the Panhandle, followed by lows on Tuesday morning, down into the 20s here for the southeast coastal areas, 15 below Copper River Basin, Gulkana, generally a little below zero here through much of the central and eastern interior, out to the central eastern Arctic coast, and much milder though to the southwest with near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, followed by highs in the mid 40s over the peninsula and 0 to 10 above in the east.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic Monday morning. A lot of marginal VFR over the Bering Sea. Some VFR there, Fox Islands into the Alaska Peninsula. Patch of IFR there near Cape Newenham. And some VFR, northern Bering Sea, particularly St. Lawrence Island, starting out VFR. Small area of marginal IFR on the north slope. Some of that into the Brooks Range early. And then some marginal VFR and IFR to a lesser extent here on the western slopes of the Alaska Range, kind of up through the Tanana Valley to the mountains and down into the Cabo River Basin. Marginal to IFR, Kenai Peninsula to start, and VFR for Kodiak and marginal VFR and some IFR for the Panhandle. In the afternoon, not much change here with the southeast coast, mostly marginal with a couple of areas of IFR over toward the border due to upsloping, and basically VFR here in the interior all the way up to the Arctic coast. And then we've got IFR sliding north or east-northeast here with all that moisture, that next storm coming onshore in the afternoon along the Yukon Delta to Nunivak Island, coming across the Pribilofs and spreading up into the Bering Strait across St. Lawrence Island, and then marginal VFR here into the southwest interior and Bristol Bay. Some IFR showing up over the Auckland mountain areas, southwest hills there. And then for Tuesday morning, IFR pushes farther east, a pretty good area from Togiak Bay, Cape Newenham, northward, right up to probably Cape Lisburne. And marginal VFR just grazing the western Arctic coast, otherwise VFR here for the east side and all of the north slope. Marginal VFR southern slopes of the Brooks Range, possibly in the northern Koyukuk Valley there, and along Porcupine River. VFR south of there, all the way into Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, eastern interior, North Gulf Coast, northern Panhandle, drier, more offshore flow. VFR there, marginal VFR, central and southern southeast coast, and then a band of IFR with that frontal boundary extending down across the Pribilofs to Adak and Atka. And for Tuesday afternoon, that pushes eastward a little bit more and a little faster than the southern portion, pushes to about Unimak Island there in Nikolsky, probably Dutch Harbor in the afternoon IFR. IFR south side of the Alaska Peninsula area, and this into the interior looks pretty IFR-ish here, but holding on to a VFR over toward the border, upper Tanana Valley, 40-mile country, northward, north slope still looking good. Marginal for the Arctic coast and this Panhandle, all VFR, and the central western Aleutians becoming VFR. Anaktuvik, VFR becoming marginal VFR, or it could go either way there at times tomorrow, bouncing kind of back and forth, both for Radigan and Anaktuvik. And then for Lake Clark and Merrill, starting out marginal, becoming VFR. And rainy, looks like a VFR afternoon coming up for Monday, and Monday looks completely in the VFR category for windy. Isabel, marginal, becoming VFR. And Mentasta looks pretty marginal throughout the day. And for Tanita, marginal VFR to start late in the morning, at least by noon, probably VFR, Portage VFR, and Chilcoot and White. Marginal VFR could start out maybe a little on the IFR side early, but throughout the day, a little bit of improvement it looks like, but holding in the marginal zone through much of the day. Freezing levels 2,000 feet down over the Queen Charlotte's at the surface now, all that's left here along the Panhandle, hugging the North Gulf Coast, down to Shelikof Strait, Alaska Peninsula, and then back up almost about Cape Newenham, and really getting pushed to the north here with that southerly flow and the storminess coming in. You can see 6,000 feet back over the Komodorskis. Icing with that southwest flow, a pretty good chunk of icing here, probably in advance of the frontal boundary, considerable moderate rime from St. Matthew Island back down into the western Aleutians. Lighter icing advancing in the afternoon, late afternoon to the Bering Strait, western Seward Peninsula, Yukon Delta coast, and some lingering over the Panhandle. Jet stream, upper level low sliding southeastward. That's why the icing kind of lingering over the southeast coast there, still onshore flow, ridging out here to the west. Whole pattern shifting eastward, storminess here linking up and coming in tomorrow, and at 9,000 feet you can see good southwest flow, 45 knots St. Lawrence Island up to 75 knots there over the western Aleutians, ridging coming across the interior, low pressure still off the southeast coast, 3,000 feet, same pattern here. So moving on to turbulence, widespread area, moderate chop here from the Bering Strait and southward along the southwest coast in the afternoon in the Aleutians.
Welcome to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with the National Weather Service, and joining us today, two more people to talk about the augmented reality sandbox. It's Alana Valaji. She's a University of Alaska Fairbanks mechanical engineering student, helped design and work on the details to make this new type of sandbox there. Thanks for joining us, Alana. Thanks. And Courtney Breest, she's the outreach coordinator for AKwx, which is the experimental program to stimulate competitive research. It's a program funded nationally by the National Science Foundation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Alana, tell us about how you changed and adapted this version of the augmented reality sandbox. It's a really cool tool.
So Gina approached us with 3 goals for this new version of the sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted it to be compact in a light system that could travel around the state. They wanted it to be child-oriented, so we designed the sandbox to have 3 different levels.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. You can have younger children, you can have high school kids. I guess I should say high school teenagers.
Sure.
And then we also designed it to be more marketable, user-friendly, so that this could be seen eventually in classrooms all over the place, all over the state.
Okay. And you had a big hand in this, but this was a team approach, right?
Definitely. It was a really good experience for myself, for George Stevens, who we'll see later.
One of our hand models today. Yeah.
For 2 other members who aren't here today, Cody Klingman and Austin Hunt. And it was just a really good learning experience all around.
Very good. And this is something that is part of your learning experience as well, so you get to check a box in your education.
Yeah,
right?
it's a requirement for seniors of mechanical engineering at University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Very good. Very good. Well, it is a wonderfully inquisitive tool, fun to play with, and I hope to get my hands in the sand here in just a little bit. But it's also part of a bigger program, something that we were talking about a moment ago, AKwx, and that's what Courtney is here to tell us more about. What is AKwx, and why do you need a sandbox?
Well, AKwx, as you mentioned, is a national program. We're funded nationally, but we're actually located statewide. We're at UAF, we're at UAA, we're in Southeast at UAS. And she mentioned, you know, taking the sandbox as an educational tool, and that's where I'm an outreach coordinator for the South Central test case.
Okay.
Our focus is on the Kenai watershed, and we are really interested in using these tools like the sandbox to interact with the students down there and get them interested in STEM and also communicate the research findings that we've been having throughout the state.
Okay. And one of those, as George and Eric are kind of changing the contours for us there from UAF to maybe something that resembles a little bit of something more of the Kenai watershed, which is one of your focuses for the study, right? And specifically looking at some of the changes there and how that impacts people and also the salmon.
Yes, it is all of our research is social and environmental.
Okay.
So we have social scientists working hand in hand with our environmental scientists. One of the things we're studying is Upper Russian Lake, and we have a researcher taking sediment cores from that lake. So one of the things we're going to use the sandbox to communicate is how the landscape changed over a long period of time, thousands of years, going from glacier, covered by glacier ice, to being filled with water. And
that's what they're doing right now.
Exactly. So
live.
So they're moving the
cool.
water around. And then I think they've got some props over there, because we're also going to go a little bit more in depth and explain how the salmon got there.
Okay.
So using
and there's
these,
the salmon.
Exactly. Oh, I think there's a few more.
Yeah, we like more salmon in Alaska. More salmon.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really taking the findings from our research grant and just trying to connect with the community and translate it in a really hands-on and exciting way, so people can, you know, interact with us as much as possible.
Well, sure. That makes the learning and the science real and quite literally in your face, rather than just some boring black and white paper that you have to read about. This is something that people can understand better because it's visual and they're touching and feeling and seeing these changes, right?
Yeah, and get them engaged. And then outreach is a huge component, and working with the younger students, and actually even, I mean, working with the UAF graduate and engineering students it's a huge part of our grant, and we really enjoy it.
Oh, it is wonderfully exciting. And so, Alana, you were telling us that this is built to travel.
Right.
And this is built to do more things than version 1. Where can this type of project go in Alaska? And what can it demonstrate?
I mean, we were hoping to eventually get to villages that were harder to reach, that you couldn't necessarily move a whole fixed instrument too, right?
Right.
You need something that can pack up, fit in your truck bed. I mean, one of the most attractive parts of this project is that this was going to be something that was used past our graduation point. You know, this is going to be something that lives in the state for years.
Right, right. Well, it looks like you're well on your way with that. So what give me another example. What else can this show us? We've talked about the Kenai River watershed. What's the coolest thing that you've played in the sand with? What's your idea?
Well, I definitely enjoy the props, but we also like kind of building up a giant mound, and if you put some water behind it, you can make a little runway, I guess, and you know, demonstrate the effects of the hydrology by just putting up a dam and letting it all pour right down.
Okay.
And so that could, I think you mentioned it earlier, you could even demonstrate the effects of a tsunami.
Right.
Or something along those lines.
So it's not just topography, but it's also hydrology
Yes.
and coastal surge mapping and some of the coastal changes that we're seeing here in Alaska, and seeing what the smaller changes in the sandbox might do to kind of a real effect of a slosh or a push of water up on the coast. Tsunami inundation mapping, or even glacial dam release, as some has been demonstrated before.
Yep.
So wow, that's just an impressive thing. That it seems like the possibilities are nearly endless with this, and probably even more ideas that are popping up in your head too.
Yeah, as we speak.
Very cool. All right. Well, if folks want to get more information about EPSCoR, you guys are online. You're on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. AKwx, right? EPSCoR, Alaska EPSCoR, that is. And again, you guys are funded by the National Science Foundation,
Yes,
so
sir.
more to come from that, and a longer-term study there. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Congratulations on your hard work there. This is really fun. And for now, I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with this edition of Alaska Weather Facts, and I'm going to go play in the sandbox there. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing ice all the way down into Togiak Bay here. I'm sorry, Kuskokwim Bay, not Togiak Bay, not showing up anything here in Bristol Bay. And it looks like with the storm coming in, this ice here south of Norton Sound, all along the coast, will probably go away, be completely blown out and melted out over the next couple of days. And even Norton Sound here, the ice will tend to blow up along the south coast of the southern Seward Peninsula, but it's really not all that thick, so I wouldn't expect any major problems with that. And even with the winds as the storm pulls farther up, or actually the low center crossing the Russian Far East, so winds will tend to go southeast here, and you could see the areas of ice maybe pulling away from the coast here, even all the way to the central coast. Coastal water forecasts, we've got kind of a variable 20-knot wind condition up here on the north coast, northeast here, up toward Yakutat, and then westerlies 20 knots increased to 30 knots on the central coast, northwest 25 there along Prince of Wales Island, northwest 15 for Clarence Strait, but southeast 15 for Stevens Passage, and north at 20 for Lynn Canal. And moving on to Tuesday, gales for Lynn Canal, north to northwest, 40 knots sustained, 8-foot seas, north 30 knots, 6-foot seas, and north 15 there for Clarence Strait. Small craft advisories here for the central and south coast. North winds 25 knots, seas running 11 to 12 feet. For Prince William Sound, small craft advisories, northwest winds at 25 knots, right on into the eastern North Gulf Coast. Same speed, 25-knot winds with 10-foot seas. Pick it up to 30 knots here for the western North Gulf Coast areas, and then good gales for the Barren Islands, northwest 40. Gales also out for Kamishak Bay, northwest 35 knots. These winds all coming down in the afternoon. Northwest 25, diminishing in the afternoon for southern Cook Inlet, otherwise north of the Forelands, north at 15. Outlook for Tuesday, Cook Inlet northeast 10 to 15 knots, Kamishak Bay southeast 20, southwest 20 for the Barrens, turn westerly 15 to 20 knots for the North Gulf Coast. And Prince William Sound, light east winds at 15 knots, seas back down to 2 feet. Kodiak Island, west winds tomorrow 20 to 30 knots, seas 5 to 9 feet. And then Castle Cape to Sitkinak, west 15. And then the Alaska Peninsula, Bering Sea side, southwest 30, Pacific side, southwest 20, and southwest 20 for Bristol Bay. And then for Tuesday, gales here on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, south 35 knots, Bristol Bay southeast at 30. Small craft advisories, Cape Sarachev for southerly winds at 25 knots, all the way up to Sitkinak. southwest 25 for Chillicothe Strait, southwest 20 on the east side of Kodiak. And for the Fox Island, Alaska Island, southerlies increasing 20 to 30 knots throughout the day. And for Unimak Island, southerlies increasing 30 to 40 knots. And then solid gales here for the central Aleutians, Adak and Atka south, 40 to 45 knots, seas up to 17 feet. Storm warnings here, Amchitka Island all the way out to Shimei and Attu. For south to southwest winds, sustained 50 knots, seas around 25 feet. Next day, Tuesday, those come down to westerlies, 25 to 30 knots there for the western Aleutians, seas falling 15 to 18 feet. West to 30 knots, just getting under gale force there for the Adak-Atka area. And for the Fox Islands, south to southwest, 30 to 35 knots with seas anywhere from 10 to 20 feet. For the southwest coast, full gale, south 40 knots. Seas 10 to 17 feet, highest north of Nunivak Island, southeast 45 here for St. Lawrence Island, southeast 30 Norton Sound, southerlies 45 knots here, quite a fetch from south to north here, pretty strong with seas for the Pribilofs up to around 20 feet, 25 feet, St. Matthew Island. Outlook for Tuesday, southwest winds 40 knots here for the Pribilofs, northern Bering Sea, south 40 here, south of Nunivak Island, gales continue, even all the zones. St. Lawrence Island, southwest 40, Norton Sound south at 40. Eastern Arctic coast, lighter winds tomorrow, west 10 to 15, south 20 on the central coast. Same for the west side, Cape Beaufort to Wales, southeast at 30. And then storm warnings there from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort, south 50 knots, seas up to 20 feet. Western central coast, good gales with east to southeast winds at 40 knots and small craft or brisk wind advisories for the eastern stretch of the Beaufort Sea, east 25 to 30 knots. For tonight, diminishing snow advisory out for the upper Tanana Valley 40 mile country until 6 a.m. for a couple more inches. Otherwise, it's really light here. And winds diminishing Kodiak, skies clearing out southern Alaska.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.